Hey guys, Sean C. Phillips here. I got October 29th DVD update where I talk about all the DVDs and Blu-rays I've gotten over the last 2 weeks or so. Like I always say, guys, enjoy these update videos. Definitely give this video a thumbs up. Leave me comments below what you guys thought or titles I checked out this update. Any titles coming up you guys like me to review for future updates. Some of the things you guys have picked up recently. Now, the first one I got from Shout Factory Scream Factory line is a brand new collector's edition with really great new artwork on this one of Bubba Ho-Tep. This is from Don Coscarelli, who directed the Phantasm films and John Dies at the End. Always really liked this movie. I have not seen this movie in years. I probably haven't seen this one since a couple years after the DVD came out, years back. This movie stars Bruce Campbell as Elvis, and one reason or another, Bruce Campbell's character is sure and certain that he is the real Elvis, and he switched places with the other guy, and this document ended up burning up in this fire, so no one really knew that it was really him, so his whole family didn't know that this was done, and, they all just believe Elvis is dead, so he's now broke, totally broke, living in this old rest home, this kind of real rundown rest home, where he's in there and he's like telling everybody that he's Elvis, and everyone's there is kind of laughing at him. The nurses are all laughing and kind of humoring him a little bit, going, yeah, tell us about how you did this. And he's like, no, I really am Elvis, and I really had the life and had all this money. And they're like, no, you're an Elvis impersonator. You went on to be Elvis, because after he faked his own death, he didn't know what to do with himself, so he actually went to impersonate Elvis, because he's like, well, I would be the best Elvis impersonator because I am Elvis. But basically, though, in this old folks home, people are kind of dying off in there, and he's in there. It's this mummy that's come back in there and kind of killing everybody off and taking the souls of the old people in this place. And he has to kind of go and sort of save the day and try and save this old folks home, get out of bed, because he's like been basically in the bed for years and really done nothing. And so it's kind of like him finally having to get out and do something again. And the other guy who's in there with him is convinced that he's John F. Kennedy. So it's like this whole ridiculous stuff in here, all these ridiculous things. It's just a very, very fun movie. Has on here, though, a new audio commentary track with the author, new interviews with the director, Bruce Campbell, and the makeups artist on here, as well as some classic features on here, the making of as well. But this is just a very, very fun movie, real over-the-top, silly special effects, and just I think, to me, one of Bruce Campbell's most fun performances. Definitely would recommend you guys check this out if you guys have not seen this one. Just a very, very fun movie. The next one, this movie was really pretty cool movie. This is from, Scream Factory as well, through their IFC line. It's a movie called Carnage Park. And it's one of those movies, too, that kind of starts off in the beginning like it's going to be like a typical bank robbery kind of movie, like you've seen a lot of people. Because in the beginning of the movie, these two guys are on the run in this car, and they have a girl in the back that they've, kidnapped from the bank that they robbed the money from. The one guy's shot and he's dying in the car, and you kind of think, oh, it's just going to be kind of like a typical kind of heist movie, the kind of thing you've seen a lot of. But what ends up happening is they end up driving off onto the road, and they kind of go off into this kind of abandoned area of the desert where there's this one kind of crazy ex-military type guy who has a sniper rifle, who's basically just like anyone who comes in there, he shoots at and kills people, and he's like up to really no good and up to really weird stuff is going on there. And the criminals, of course, the one guy dies very beginning of the movie, and the criminal and the one girl are out there sort of out in the middle of this. And what ends up happening, though, is this is very early on in the movie. The guy gets shot, and the girl who's that they kidnapped is out there trapped out there with this crazy, guy with a sniper, and she has to try and survive out there, and he's kind of hunting her. And you just kind of start to discover more and more weird things that are going on out there. Oh, there's fell down more and more odd stuff that's going on out there. Pat Healy, who was in Compliance and Innkeepers and a bunch of different movies, he plays the guy with the sniper rifle, and he's so good in this. He's always really good at playing weird characters. Like in Compliance, he was the guy on the phone calling the McDonald's, telling them to search that girl. He's always really good and stuff, and he was very cool in this movie. But basically, like I said, though, it's like him out there, and the police, the one guy's brother is a cop, and he's trying to get in there and saying, this girl, you gotta let her go if you have her in here, because her father is. It's just a very, very cool movie. Really, really love this one. Like I said, definitely not the kind of movie you're expecting, and has just a really cool vibe, and this was very cool. The next one is another one I had never seen before, and this is from Shout Factory's new line, Shout Selects, and it's a movie, starring Billy D. Williams and Sylvester Stallone. It's called Nighthawks. And this is basically about these two cops, and it's kind of like a cop buddy cop kind of guy type movie, but not exactly like what, because it's like more like a buddy cop thing, but then it's like a bad thing that's going on. It's this terrorist guy, and they actually filmed this movie in a whole bunch of different locations, like in Paris and Europe and stuff. And it's Rutger Hauer, who's this guy who has this plan of what he's doing. You don't really know what he's exactly planning, but he's basically planting bombs in like a department store and all these different locations, and he's really doing it for attention. He's trying to get news play and people talking about him, and that's his big thing, is he really wants to call into the newspapers and call into the TV stations after he does this. He really wants people to know that he's involved, and it ends up him coming to the U.S. because he's escaped from Europe and he's in the U.S. and this whole tactical force is kind of being put together there to try and track this guy down and find him. And it's Billy D. Williams, Sylvester Stallone's character, being kind of groomed by someone who's come over from Europe to kind of train them and explain to them what to do. And Sylvester Stallone's like, listen, I don't need to do this. I'm just going to find him. And he kind of like wants to go out off on his own and kind of find him with Billy D. Williams' character. That's essentially what it is. And it's a pretty tense movie about the whole thing about what's going on out there and him planting these bombs and them trying to stop him before, and he can do something bad out there, and pretty sure it was in New York, and in New York before that he can do something out there. This has on here though new interviews with the producer on here and the writer, as well as actors James Wagner and Catherine Mary Stewart, and then police consultant Randy Jurgensen, and his theatrical trailers on this one. Like I said, though, this is from Shout's new line, but very cool. And like I said, I had never actually heard of this one before I had seen it. And the next one here from Paramount is Star Trek Beyond, the third in the new Star Trek series. And this is actually my favorite of all the Star Trek ones, of the new films. I actually really like this one a lot, and has the late Anton Yelchin in this movie, I'm such a huge fan of here, and he's like always really sad about what happened and how he passed away. But he actually had a really good role in this one, because he was in the last two, but it wasn't a huge part. He actually was in quite a bit more of this one. And this is basically, though, what I actually liked about this best, though, is because it took place a lot on a planet. Because like I always like in these when they go to like alien planets, and I never like them as much when it's like all stuff in space and all stuff on the ship and they don't really do as much stuff. This one is actually pretty much all on this planet, because they end up crash landing, taken down by the character's name is Karl, he basically wants something that's on the ship, on the Enterprise, and he has like all these people that work with him, like the fighters that kind of take the ship down. They crash land on the planet. All the characters kind of end up split up on the planet, and a couple of them go off and they get help from this one girl who's on the planet trying to help them. And it's kind of them trying to figure out how they're going to get off of this planet since their ship is destroyed, and what they're going to do. But it's kind of the whole thing out there, and he was actually a pretty good villain. And like I said, I really like when these movies are off the ship and kind of doing stuff in space. And this one really felt like, to me, like one of those like really, really good episodes of the show when they would like go to a planet. And that's what I like. Like I like when they are off the ship and that kind of stuff happening. But it has on here though deleted scenes, Beyond the Darkness story, our origins, Live Long and Prosper, 50 years of Star Trek, and then it has a thing on here for Leonard Nimoy and Anton Yelchin, like a memorial thing on there talking about them. But like I said, I really, really like this one a lot. The next one here from Lionsgate, it's a pretty fun movie. It has in here Drake Bell as the voice of the pig, and it has Joey Lawrence, and actually has Bill Moseley in this. Pretty small part, but he's playing like the home guy who's like the real estate agent. And every time I see him like playing like a normal role, he still always has a slight chop top kind of vibe to him, which I think is kind of cool. And like he was like a kind of like crazy over the top real estate agent in this that sold this family the new house. But the movie's called Arlo the Burping Pig. And it's basically, though, about this family that ends up moving into this new home, and the father is still trying to, Joy Lawrence's character ends up going back to the old house in the beginning of the movie because he has to try and finish some things up out there. But, in this place, in the beginning of the movie, you see this criminal who stole this vase, this very valuable, like, Ming Dynasty vase. He ends up hiding it in the family's, front yard. And the family sees it there, and they move in and go talk to Bill Moseley's character and say, "What is this?" And they'll go, I threw that in here. That's, a welcoming gift. That's yours to keep. So the family ends up taking that inside the house. And it's like kind of like this whole thing about the criminal trying to get back and get that vase back. And then it also deals with this pig that ended up wandering out of the circus kind of area, and he ends up going, and this girl ends up finding this pig, and the pig is burping the whole time. So it's like Arlo the burping pig, because he's famous in the circus for burping all the time. It's a very silly movie, but I always like these kind of movies, and I have not seen a movie like this where it's kind of like a pig type movie like this. It's always kind of like dog films, but this is like, it's kind of like a dog film, but instead it's like with a pig character. And like I said, the pig is in the house, and the girl is trying to, kind of like in the movie Beethoven, hide the pig and trying to make sure the family doesn't come across him, because they don't want her to have to get rid of the pig, and it's kind of that whole thing going on. And then the subplot too is the guy trying to steal this vase back, so he's kind of lurking around trying to steal it back. But like I said, very, very fun movie, and Drake Bell plays the voice of the pig in this one, and also has in here some bonus episodes on here, and a trailer gallery on this as well. The next one is from Anchor Bay. This is one I had not heard much about at all, and it stars Nicolas Cage and Russell Brand, and it's Larry Charles, who directed Borat and Curb Your Enthusiasm, directed this. This is a very fun movie. It's actually based on a true guy, because at first I wasn't sure if it was true, and then at the end they showed footage of the real guy. But it's a movie called Army of One. And it stars, like I said, Nicolas Cage, and he's this guy, and he plays this really weird voice he does in it. I always love when he plays these really eccentric, odd characters, and he's the whole time going, well, if I were to do this. It's just this really odd voice, and like this really peculiar type character. He's this guy who kind of never has a job, and he does some construction work here and there, and he gets this like vision of Russell Brand's character as God coming to him saying that he needs to go to Pakistan and kill Osama bin Laden. That's like his task in life, and like he's been on a mission from God to do this, and he's going to do anything he can to try and do this. And he wants to buy a boat and sail the boat out there. He ends up meeting his one old girl that he knew from high school, and they start kind of dating, and she's like hearing about him doing this and kind of looking at him sideways like, what are you doing? You're gonna leave me now to do this mission? And it's kind of him, and he wants to take a sword out there, but he doesn't really want to kill him. He wants to take him and like bring him back and capture him. And it's kind of the whole thing of him trying to get there, and him having all these issues when he gets there, and like gliding in, and all these kind of ridiculous situations that happen along the way. But I really thought this was a very fun movie, and Nicolas Cage was so good in this movie, and like I said, so peculiar. I love these peculiar kind of characters that he does. But has on here though the making of Army of One on here. The next one here, this is cool now that all the films are finally out on Blu-ray, because up until recently, only part 1 and 3 were on Blu-ray, and now all of them are in here, and has on here too a brand new bonus discs with Brett Ratner and Jackie Chan looking back at Rush Hour. And this is the new Rush Hour trilogy with really great new artwork on this one. Basically though, if you guys don't know the Rush Hour films, it's basically Jackie Chan and, Chris Tucker as these cops, and they kind of have to team up together, and they're kind of like, Jackie Chan's character hardly knows any English, and they kind of are fighting and getting into all these comic situations and all these kind of problems, and like they're going to Japan and other countries to try and stop these bad guys, and it's them kind of, like I said, getting into all kinds of problems. Now in here, those wondering though, it has each movie on its own disc, so it's brand new discs in here with brand new artwork on all the discs, and it has in here a bonus disc and the special features disc. So the special features are on their own disc here, and the features are on here though, like I said, all 3 films with commentary track with Brett Ratner, additional scenes, and then a making of Rush Hour as well on here, and a bunch more stuff as well. And like I said, this is a brand new artwork on this one. I think, like I said, very cool that now all the movies are finally released on Blu-ray in this brand new set here. But I always really love these movies, and really cool now that they're all together in their own set. The next one here from Severin Films, and this is one of these zombie movies that I had never seen before, and it's amazing for like one aspect, like one thing that I really loved about this. It's a movie called Burial Ground, and like I said, I had never seen this one. It has on here the original artwork as well underneath. But I love this new artwork on this one, especially because it's like my favorite character in this on the cover. And it's basically though about this family. In the beginning of the movie, you see this kind of eccentric, weird kind of doctor guy, science guy, who's like goes down these like caverns and unwakens this crypt of all these zombies that come out. And then this family and these friends all come to this guy's house, and not knowing that he just did this and unleashed all these zombies and got killed down there. And they go there for this kind of party to see him, and they end up getting in this mansion house and kind of trapped in there while the zombies are all coming back and attacking them, and they're kind of barricading themselves inside. But the amazing aspect is there's this guy who's probably like 27 years old. I was looking it up, and he's playing like a 10-year-old boy, and it's very weird. There's something so strange about this, and he has this really peculiar relationship with his mother, and it's like he's like obsessed with his mother, and he's like peeking it on his mother, and he's sleeping with this guy, and it's like really odd. And like also like the zombies in this movie are amazing. Like they almost have like a Troll 2 vibe, and some of them like these like real clay stagnant faces and stuff. They're coming out there, all coming after them. And the thing that's cool about this as well is it's a zombie movie where it's not like zombies that actually use tools and have like real intelligence and like kill people in like all these different ways. I absolutely love this one so much. If you guys haven't seen this one, this is so good and just such a ridiculous movie. Really cool music as well. It has on here though a featurette talking about the location where they filmed this, the house, because they filmed a whole bunch of movies in this house before. Very cool, like, you know, mansion location. And they have a thing on here talking to the guy who played the kid in this, Patrick, like a Q&A with him from a couple years back. Interview with one of the guys who, the cast members, was talking about how he did this movie just for the money and stuff. It was very, I don't know, I really love this one. If you guys have seen this one, let me know what you guys think, but I really thought this was great. Another one from Severin's Intervision line is a brand new documentary talking about like the folklore to the screen of the, you know, Count Dracula, and, you know, Vlad being a paler character like the real Dracula, legend of him. It's kind of talking to horror people, historians, all that kind of stuff, and it's a documentary all kind of talking about the origins and how Dracula came to be. It has on here though archival interviews with Bela Lugosi, John Carradine, Christopher Lee, Udo Kier, and it has on here too a pretty cool thing which is like Dracula movie trailers, which is 94 minutes of Dracula movie trailers. So all kinds of different Dracula films on here. And then an interview with Udo Kier, audio interview with Christopher Lee. But a very cool film set if you guys are a fan of Dracula films and like the Legend of Dracula. Very cool documentary covering the whole thing. The next one here from Image Entertainment, RLG Image Entertainment, is a movie called Kickboxer Vengeance, which is actually a remake of Kickboxer. But it has in here, though, Jean-Claude Van Damme, though, playing this time the teacher. And I don't know if I ever saw the original one or not. I feel like I might have years and years ago, but I'm not totally certain. This is basically, though, about this one guy's, these two brothers who are these kickboxers, and they work at this gym. The one brother's invited to go out to, I think it was like somewhere in Asia, and no, out in Thailand. He's invited to go out to Thailand to do, you know, boxing and to fight out there. And he ends up, you know, going. The brother goes out there to see him because he wants to see him for this big fight that he has. They kind of had an argument about him going out there because he was leaving the gym and everything. He goes out there though, and he ends up getting killed on the ring, and the brother sees this happen. The brother basically wants to get revenge on the guy who was responsible for this, who killed his brother and his whole group of people. So he ends up going to Jean-Claude Van Damme, who was the teacher who taught his brother, trying to convince him to teach him to fight, to teach him to be able to take him out and get his revenge. So it's kind of about him training and trying to get his revenge on the guy who killed his brother. And he's played, you know, the guy who killed his brother is, you know, Bautista, you know, who's in, you know, from the WWE and the Guardians of the Galaxy. It has on here, though, the making of Kickboxer Vengeance in a photo gallery. It was actually a pretty fun movie. Like, if you guys like martial art types films and you like movies with Jean-Claude Van Damme, too, he plays a good role in this. Like I said, this time he's the teacher as opposed to the guy who's getting revenge in the original film. The next one is one I had never actually seen before. I don't feel like I had ever even seen... I saw like a couple clips, but I had never seen this. I don't know how I never saw this, but it's the James Stewart, Donna Reed film. This is the brand new Platinum edition of It's a Wonderful Life. And it has on here, though, the two versions of the movie, the original black and white version, as well as a new colorized version. So I don't know if the colorized version has ever been released before on Blu-ray or not. And it has on here some art cards as well in here. Like some art postcards in here as well. But basically, though, if you guys don't know the movie, what's funny, it says on here disc 2. Oh yeah, I was thinking, where's the disc? And I was like, oh, it's still in the player. I didn't take it out. I was like, oh yeah. I was like, where's the other disc? But it's basically, though, if you guys don't know the movie, it's basically kind of chronicling the life. It's like in heaven, like God is basically up there saying that to this angel who doesn't have its wings, like, you need to go back to Earth and stop this guy because he's going to make a bad decision and he wants to end it because he's upset about how his life is gone. And it kind of shows through his whole life about when he was a kid and he had all these dreams and aspirations of these things he wanted to do, and he wanted to travel. He wanted to go all these places, and he was getting ready to go to college, and his dad had passed away, and his business at this loan office was like, this one old man who was there like wanted to take over and like get rid of the business, and the only way they would be able to stay around was if he stays, the son stays and doesn't go to college. So it's kind of like his whole life kind of changed, and the things that he wanted to do didn't end up happening, and like, it's kind of like that, and it's kind of showing him too, the angel is going to come back to show him what it'd be like if he didn't live, and that kind of thing. That's essentially what it was. I had seen movies where they kind of parodied or like made their own versions of this before, like a number of times, but never actually the actual version of the movie. But it is a great movie. It's a classic movie. Everybody really knows this. But like I said, somehow I had never seen this one. The next one here from Kaleidoscope, I think it's Kaleidoscope Home Entertainment. This is a movie, I think it's going to come out in the U.S. under the title just The Windmill, but this is a Region 2 release, so just keep that in mind. It's a Region 2 release, so you have to have a region-free DVD player for this. But this movie really surprised me. I thought this was great. Like, this is one of those movies when I was watching it, I absolutely love this movie. And it's basically, though, about a group of people who end up going to, like, it's like they're taking a tour bus to look at windmills, which is kind of a weird thing. They want to like tour windmills and see like old abandoned ones and all these different ones. And at the beginning of the movie, you see this one girl who is, she's a babysitter for these kids, and the father finds out that she's not really from the UK, she's from Australia, and she's been lying about her name because he comes across her passport, and she doesn't know what to do. So she, because of something she did in the past, she's kind of on the run and kind of hiding out. So she sees this tour bus and runs on the tour bus, and they let her go on. And it's basically, though, like the tour bus is going out there to look at these lighthouses and ends up breaking down in the middle of nowhere. This weird place with this scary looking creepy lighthouse up on the top of the hill, and nobody knows what this lighthouse is because it's not in the map, and it's a whole bunch of different characters on here. And you're finding out, though, that there's a reason why all these characters are on there, and they've all done something. Each of them have done something, and the character there is at this windmill. This guy is basically going there to kill them one after another for a certain reason of why, and you kind of come on into finding out exactly what's going on here. It kind of had the vibe what was going on of like the original Tales from the Crypt movie, kind of that sort of feel to it a little bit. I love this. So like I said, there was some amazing gore effects in this, like really over the top kills. It says on here, Jeepers Creepers meets Friday the 13th. It definitely has that kind of vibe to it, a Jeepers Creepers kind of feel to this. But I love this movie. Like I said, I would recommend this one so much. I thought this was so well done. Has on here, though, a director's commentary track, B-roll collection, which is some behind the scenes stuff, and then a behind the scenes featurette. But if you guys have seen this one, let me know your thoughts on this. But I really love this one. I just thought it was a very creepy movie. And the next one here from Vinegarson, there's a couple new Vinegarson releases here. This is one called Death Row Game Show, so I had never seen before. Absolutely love this one. This was, to me, a very funny movie. And this is basically about this guy who hosts this game show that he puts on, where it's people who are on death row can come on there and play this game. If they win, they end up having their executions canceled or put on hold and things like that for a couple of years. And they end up, if they lose on this show, they get killed live on TV, like their head cut off, they get electrocuted, all these different kind of elaborate, weird deaths that they have. And everybody, there's a lot of people who really dislike this guy and really hate him, and that people are trying to kill him and come after him because there's this one mafia guy that he ended up killing, and they're trying to come after him because of this. But what ends up happening, though, is there's a guy who's like kind of hunting him, and he's like the best like contract killer, and he's this really ridiculous guy, like played real over the top, and like I love that character. And he's like crazy trying to coming after him. He's like, oh, I'm the best hitman around, and I'll consider not killing you if you let my mother on this show. But something goes totally, this other show next by, like a let's make a deal type show, but something goes terribly wrong there, and there's this huge mix up. It's this whole thing of all these kind of problems, and this the host like just kind of like his life. It was kind of like kind of a spoof of the a Chuck Woolery kind of show. I think that was kind of what they were kind of spoofing a little bit. But it has on here, though, a brand new 2K transfer here, a commentary track with the director and the two of the actors, and then it has a making of documentary talking to a number of the actors about how this was put together and stuff. And it has on here too a director's introductions. It has a 2015 director's cut of it. That one's not in HD though. And I couldn't tell what was the main differences with that one. I watched, though, the HD one. I think it was like a minute or two longer, I believe. But this, to me, was just such a fun movie. Really love this. Like, I love these kind of over-the-top kind of comedy horror movies. The next one here is Hobgoblins, which is pretty cool. And the special features here, I'm actually in them real quick. You see me very quickly, because they have a segment in here from 2009's Comic-Con where they we're doing a signing at the Shout Factory booth for this movie years back, and I was like going up to the director getting signed, so you see me kind of talking to him and going over. So it's kind of cool that they included that in here on the features. This is one of those movies, though, that's considered like on the lists of like one of the top 50 worst movies of all time. And it is a really, like, I don't think it's like the worst movie. It's kind of like a Gremlins type Critters film, and it's basically, though, these kind of the Hobgoblin characters who are all at this old abandoned film studio, and the guy who's like the night security guy hides them in here because he discovered them years before, and he kind of locks them in this vault so they kind of can't get out. And the one guy who's a new security guard who comes in there to work with him ends up accidentally letting them out because a criminal goes into the vault, and he ends up letting these hobgoblins out, and so he has to try and get them back. And the hobgoblins, like, they can like show you your innermost, things that you dream of and stuff, but then they really are planning on doing bad things to you. This is, to me, just a really, really fun, ridiculous, over-the-top movie, as well as a brand new 2K transfer on these. Vinegar Syndrome does such an amazing job on these transfers of these movies. They find the greatest prints. Same with all these releases. They all look great. Has on here, though, Hobgoblins Revisited, a making of featurette on here, and then, like I said, the Comic-Con feature as well as the trailer. The next one here is another one from Vinegar Syndrome called Nightmare Sisters, which is this one I had never seen. This has a new 2K transfer as well. And this one I had, like I said, never seen. Dave Dakota directed this one. This has in here, Linnea Quigley, Michelle Bauer, Brinke Stevens, and it's basically, though, about these three nerdy girls who, kind of like, everyone kind of makes fun of them. They're kind of the real geeky girls, and it's their characters, Michelle Bauer and Linnea Quigley and all of them kind of dressing themselves in glasses and getting all geeked out, and they end up, wanting to invite these guys over to this party, but when they're there, they kind of like do this seance type thing, and they end up getting possessed by these sort of like sex type demons that kind of make them pretty and like make them not nerdy anymore, but then it's like people start dying off and stuff in the fraternity. It's just a really fun, over-the-top movie. Like I said, I had never seen this before. I had always heard of this one, but a very cool movie. If you're a fan of, Linnea Quigley and all the Michelle Bauer and Brinke Stevens, definitely check this one out. The next one here as well is another, this is a 2-movie set here, which has Murder Weapon and Deadly Embrace, and these are 2 other Dave Dakota films, with Linnea Quigley in them as well. And this one is basically about these 2 women who were, in the insane asylum and end up getting out of there. When they get out, they want to invite all their boyfriends together, their old ex-boyfriends and stuff together for this party. And then when they're there, people start dying off. And the other one is like this jealous husband. And it's played by, who was the guy who plays it? It was Jan Michael Vincent, and he was playing this like jealous husband who's finds out his wife might be seeing this guy, and he's really mad about the whole thing. But it has on here with these ones as well, commentary tracks, new 2K transfer on this, and the commentary track has the director and Linnea Quigley on this one. And the next one here is from a company called Panic Ventures, and it's a movie called The ID. This was such a great movie. It's about this woman who has been stuck for years of her life taking care of her father, who's this very, very abusive guy. He's always yelling at her. He's like throwing food at her. He's like saying, do this, and screaming at her and like telling her exactly what to do. And, he's just a terrible, terrible person. And the daughter is like starting to get fed up with this, and she gets a call one day from her randomly out of the blue from her old high school boyfriend she had not seen in years, and she really wants to see this guy, and they're trying to plan out and seeing each other, and the father is like, you will not leave this house, you are staying here, you leave this house, I'm going to call the police on you and say you abused me, and then they're going to throw you out of here, and you have no money. And he's just being terrible to her, and it's kind of about what she ends up doing because of this father, and that's essentially what it is. The actress, though, who plays the daughter, was in, I think, I think the first Nightmare on Elm Street film and a number of other movies. She was so good in this, the performance in this. She's like plays such a sad character and just so depressed because of this father who just continuously breaks her down and is like destroying her. But just a great character piece about this abusive father and this her kind of losing her mind little by little because of this abuse. It has on here though a featurette on the movie, deleted and alternate scenes, behind the scenes audition clips. It was pretty cool. They had the auditions on here as well, because you don't see that too often on movies when they have the actual auditions. The next one here from Mill Creek is a four comedy movie collection, which has Walk Hard, The Brother Solomon, Balls Out, and Fired Up. And I don't know if Brother Solomon and Balls Out had Blu-ray releases in the past or not. I know Walk Hard and Fired Up did, but I don't know if the other ones did or not. Fired Up with these guys that end up with these football players who end up going to a like cheerleader camp, and they kind of infiltrate it and they really want to be in the cheerleader camp. And Walk Hard was, this kind of musical story with John C. Reilly playing kind of like a Johnny Cash type guy. It's all like a parody one. Brother Solomon was like these two brothers whose father really wanted them to have a kid, and he's like dying, so they have to try and figure out how they're going to have this kid, and so they have a grandson for him before he dies. These are just really, really fun movies, like I said, and it's like 2 movies on each disc, on each Blu-ray. This is a cool, like I said, new collection of these ones, and I know I don't have Brother Solomon and Balls Out. Like I said, I don't know if there's one on Blu-rays in the past or not. The next one here is a movie which is kind of cool. I actually have a cameo in this movie, and I don't remember when I filmed this one. It was a couple years back. It's me on the TV playing a like a infomercial salesman with the stain stuff that like gets like terrible stains out. This is a ultra gory, super gory movie from Germany called The Curse of Dr. Wolfenstein. This is from Real Gore Releasing. The cover on this one is great, like really great cover. To me, it's just so cool to like appear in this movie because it's like I said, it's from Germany. It's just a super, super gory, over the top movie about this guy who was in the past was like dying, and like he was like taking people's body parts and sewing them to himself and doing all these weird experiments, and he's come back years later, and these group of friends are kind of coming together. It was for like a kind of a event together, like a party kind of thing going out, like all these people coming together for this, and their people are kind of getting killed off one by one and tortured and stuff by this doctor. And like I said, it's a super gory. If you guys like crazy gory splatter type movies from Germany and that kind of movie, definitely check this out. Like I said, and you see me in this. Has on here though behind the scenes bloopers, short films, and a trailer. But like I said, really cool one here. The next one here is from a company called Film Movement, and it's a brand new collection that has Vampire Ecstasy and Sin You Sinners. And Vampire Ecstasy is one, I think I had saw this one years and years back, and I think the director of this did Wildcats, which I remember at one point like Seduction Cinema was like doing their own remakes of some of his movies, I believe. And I don't know if they remade Vampire Ecstasy or not, but I think they might have released it years back. And these have brand new transfers on these movies, 2K transfers, very cool ones. I think they're putting out another one coming up called The Quiet Earth. I think it's new for them to be putting out like indie, like lesser known like 70s and 80s horror movies, as far as I know. This one has on here Vampire Ecstasy, which is basically about kind of like a real surreal, kind of like a James Rowland type movie and Gene Rowland type movie, and it's kind of like these girls coming together at this castle, and they're kind of like these women there are all like these witches, these vampire witches that are kind of doing all these rituals and like banging these drums, and they're doing all these kind of ritual type things, and they kind of are sucking the blood from these girls, and it's like a lesbian type vampire movie. And if you guys know these kind of movies, you know what I'm talking about, these type of like surreal, weird type vibe movies. But it has on here though interviews with the director and commentary track on here with the producer, but a cool set in here, great transfers on these ones. And the last one here is a Bob Hope collection, which is Hope for the Holidays, which is a classic holiday cheer, which has guests on here from Lucille Ball, Bing Crosby, Red Skelton, Jack Benny. So it's nearly 2 hours on here. This is for the Bob Hope Show. It's like him doing interviews and things like that. If you guys know what this show is, has on here a compilation of Bob's monologues from his many tours on the USO, Red Fox and Bob Render Reduction Guide. Jack Benny visits Santa at the North Pole for a holiday stick-up. So a lot of fun stuff on here. If you guys know the Bob Hope and the kind of things that he did, like the interviewing with the troops and performing for the troops and stuff like that, check this one out. Anyway, though, guys, that's all for this Blu-ray DVD update video. Thanks again for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.